The unwanted ambassador. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Council's massive space station, watching distant stars flicker against the void. After 15 years of serving as humanity's chief diplomat to the Council, she knew the subtle signs of political maneuvering. The emergency session called on such short notice, the whispered conversations that stopped when she entered rooms, the way the Arcturian delegates wouldn't meet her gaze. Something was very wrong. "Commander Chen." A melodic voice chimed from behind her. "The Council requests your presence in Chamber 7. Sarah turned to face diplomat Exile, the willowy Meridian who had been her closest ally in recent years. The alien's crystalline skin caught the starlight, but her usually bright bioluminescent patterns were dim, another bad sign. An unusual venue, Sarah noted, straightening her midnight blue uniform. Chamber 7 was one of the station's smaller, more private meeting rooms. "I assume this isn't about humanity's petition to join the Deep Space Exploration Initiative." Exile's patterns flickered with what Sarah recognized as distress. "Please, just come with me." The walk to Chamber 7 was silent. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Humanity had been making rapid technological advances, particularly in AI and quantum mechanics. Their colonies were expanding faster than any other young spacefaring race. She'd noticed the growing unease among the elder species, but surely they wouldn't. The chamber doors slid open to reveal 5 members of the Council's inner circle. Their expressions ranged from carefully neutral to openly hostile. High Chancellor Vexthor, his scaled face impassive, gestured to the single chair in the center of the room. "Commander Chen, please, be seated." Sarah remained standing. "I prefer to face the Council on my feet, Chancellor." A ripple of displeasure passed through the assembled aliens. "Good. Let them see that humans wouldn't be easily cowed." "Your species," Vexthor began, "has become a matter of grave concern. Your technological progression rate exceeds all historical precedents. Your expansion initiatives show no signs of slowing. Many on the Council believe humanity represents an existential threat to galactic stability." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We followed every regulation, signed every treaty." "And yet you advance too quickly," interrupted Councillor Zintax, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "Your kind achieves in decades what should take centuries. It cannot be allowed to continue." "So what's the play here?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. "Sanctions, restricted zones, technology embargoes." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah watched as Vexthor activated a small device on his wrist. A faint hum filled the air. "For the preservation of galactic peace," he said softly, "more direct action is required." Sarah's combat training kicked in as she felt the first effects of the teleportation field. She lunged for the door, but her muscles were already growing heavy, unresponsive. The last thing she saw was Exile turning away, unable to watch. The world dissolved into light and pain. Sarah awoke to the kiss of alien sunlight on her face. She lay still, assessing. The air was thin but breathable, gravity slightly lighter than Earth standard. Her uniform had been replaced with simple survival gear. A small pack of basic supplies lay nearby. Their idea of mercy, perhaps. As she pushed herself to her feet, the magnitude of their betrayal became clear. The landscape before her was a vista of red stone and purple-leafed vegetation, stretching to a horizon crowned by 3 moons. No signs of civilization. No way to call for help. They'd exiled her to die. But as Sarah began a methodical survey of her surroundings, she noticed something odd about a nearby rock formation. The angles were too precise, the surface too smooth in places. Not natural formation at all, but ruins. She approached cautiously, testing each step. The structure had clearly stood for millennia, its original purpose lost to time. But as she drew closer, she noticed a faint light pulsing from within a crack in the ancient wall. Something was still active in there. A sound made her freeze. Voices carried on the wind. Not human, but not animal either. Sarah pressed herself against the wall, controlling her breathing as she had been trained. The voices grew closer, accompanied by the soft crunch of footsteps on gravel. "Energy signature is stronger today," someone said in accented galactic standard. "If we can just stabilize the power core." The speaker came into view around the corner of the ruins. Sarah found herself face to face with a tall, elegant being whose silver skin seemed to shift like quicksilver. The alien's 4 eyes widened in shock. "Impossible," it breathed. "You're human." Sarah kept her stance neutral but ready. "I am Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Diplomatic Corps." She managed a wry smile. "Though I suspect that title doesn't mean much anymore." More aliens appeared, a research team, judging by their equipment. They were Avalarians, an advanced species known for their scientific achievements, and they looked just as stranded as she was. "I am Dr. Killerin," the first alien said, lowering the scanner it held. We're part of a classified research expedition. Our ship was sabotage. We've been stranded here for 3 standard cycles, studying these ruins." It hesitated. "They're not what the Council thinks they are." Sarah's diplomatic training kicked in, reading volumes in that simple statement. "And what does the Council think they are?" "Bridging 2 worlds." The alien sun had set twice since Sarah's arrival at the Avalarian camp. She sat cross-legged before a holographic display, watching as Dr. Killerin's silver fingers manipulated complex equations in the air. The rest of the research team, 5 brilliant scientists who had been declared missing by the Council, worked nearby, their quicksilver skin reflecting the glow of various instruments. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in known space," Killerin explained, expanding a particular section of data. "We've managed to translate some of the ruins' text. They speak of something called the Nexus Protocol, technology that could revolutionize interstellar travel." Sarah studied the flowing symbols. "And the Council knows about this. They suspect." Dr. Lix, the team's linguist, approached with a new data crystal. "That's why they sabotaged our expedition. The Council fears any technology that could upset the current balance of power." A distant rumble interrupted their discussion. Sarah was on her feet instantly, recognizing the sound from her survival training. Dust storm. A big one. The Avalarians moved with practiced efficiency, but Sarah noticed their equipment wasn't designed for the planet's increasingly harsh conditions. The protective shields they'd jury-rigged around their camp were weakening. "The auxiliary power core won't last another storm," Mira, their engineer, reported grimly. "We need a new solution." Sarah's mind raced. The ruins had survived millennia of these storms. There had to be a reason. She pulled up the partial map they'd made of the ancient complex. "These patterns in the wall design, they're not decorative, are they?" Killerin's eyes widened. "They're flow channels. The entire structure is designed to channel and deflect wind patterns, but we could never generate enough power to activate the system." "You couldn't," Sarah said, already moving. "But we're not going to power it. We're going to redirect it." She grabbed a piece of equipment, quickly reconfiguring its settings. "On Earth, we have something called a Tesla coil. The principle is simple. We can use the storm's own electrical charge to power the ruins' defensive systems." The Avalarians watched in fascination as Sarah worked, her hand steady despite the approaching storm. She positioned modified sensors at key points around the ruins, creating a crude but effective electromagnetic field. "Everyone inside," she shouted as the storm hit. The team huddled in the main chamber, watching through ancient windows as Sarah's improvised system came to life. The storm's energy crackled along the ruins' channels, illuminating patterns they'd never seen before. The air hummed with power, but the devastating winds flowed around them like water around a stone. When the storm passed, the ruins thrummed with renewed energy. Previously dark sections had awakened, revealing new passages and information. "Remarkable," Killerin breathed, examining the newly activated systems. You adapted primitive Earth technology to interface with advanced alien architecture. How did you know it would work? Sarah smiled. I didn't, but humans have a saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. When survival is on the line, you get creative. The team spent the next several days exploring the newly accessible areas of the ruins. Sarah's diplomatic training proved invaluable as she helped the scientists interpret the ancient civilization's records. They learned the ruins were more than just a research station. They were a test. The precursors, Lix explained, translating a particularly dense text. They didn't just vanish. They were looking for worthy successors, species that could demonstrate both technological aptitude and cooperative potential, which explains why the Council is so afraid, Sarah mused. They've built their power on controlling access to advanced technology. A civilization that freely shared their knowledge would upend everything. As they delved deeper into the ruins, Sarah noticed something else changing. The initial wariness between her and the Avalarian team had evolved into genuine respect and collaboration. They taught her about quantum mechanics and hyperdimensional mathematics. She shared human perspectives on problem-solving and adaptation. One evening, as they gathered around their makeshift common area, Mira approached Sarah with an unusual request. Would you teach us more about human music? The patterns you hum while working. They're fascinating. Soon the ancient halls echoed with an impromptu concert as Sarah taught the Avalarians Earth songs, their naturally harmonic voices adding otherworldly beauty to familiar melodies. It was during this moment of connection that a previously dormant console suddenly activated. A holographic message appeared, written in the precursor's complex script. Lix's hands trembled as they translated. The Nexus protocol activates only for those who understand that true advancement comes not from technology alone, but from the harmony of diverse minds working as one. Sarah looked at her alien companions, no longer just stranded scientists, but friends. The Council tried to isolate us, to keep species divided and dependent on their authority. But they didn't count on this. Killoran's skin rippled with determination. We've proven that humans and Avalarians can work together, can trust each other. Perhaps that's the key the precursors were waiting for. The console's light pulsed stronger, revealing the hidden chamber deeper within the ruins. As the team prepared to explore this new discovery, Sarah felt a surge of hope. The Council had meant to silence her, but instead they'd given her the chance to help forge a new future, one built on cooperation rather than control. Whatever secrets lay in that hidden chamber, she knew humanity's true strength wasn't in its rapid advancement or technological innovations. It was in their ability to reach across the stars and find friendship in the most unexpected places. Ancient secrets. The hidden chamber defied all expectations. As Sarah and the Avalarian team descended its crystalline stairs, the walls came alive with flowing light patterns. Unlike the utilitarian design of the upper ruins, this space radiated an almost organic elegance. These aren't just decorative lights, Mira observed, her scanner humming. They're carrying data, massive amounts of it. At the chamber's center stood a towering structure that resembled a double helix, but instead of genetic code, it pulsed with streams of quantum information. Sarah approached carefully, noting how the light patterns seemed to respond to their presence. Look at this, Dr. Killoran called, examining a series of glyphs near the base. The precursors didn't just master space travel, they transcended it. This technology, it doesn't move through space, it reshapes it. A deep rumble shook the chamber. But this wasn't another dust storm. Something about their presence had triggered a response in the ancient systems. The helix structure began to rotate, each twist revealing new layers of complexity. It's some kind of test interface, Lix realized, frantically translating the appearing symbols. The precursors left puzzles, challenges that require multiple species working in concert to solve. Sarah studied the patterns emerging on the walls. These sequences, they're like music scales, but multidimensional. Remember how we combined human melodies with Avalarian harmonics? Killoran's eyes widened. Of course, the precursors understood that different species perceive reality in fundamentally different ways. No single perspective could unlock their secrets. They worked through the night, Sarah's human intuition complementing the Avalarians' analytical precision. The puzzles were ingenious, problems that could only be solved by combining different cognitive approaches. A human's ability to recognize patterns met an Avalarian's grasp of quantum mathematics. Where one species saw chaos, the other found order. But as they progressed, the chamber's security systems activated. Holographic guardians materialized, testing not just their intelligence but their ethical judgment. Each challenge forced them to demonstrate that they understood the responsibility that came with advanced technology. Choice point, Mira announced, examining a particularly complex puzzle. We could optimize the power flow for maximum output, but it would destabilize the surrounding systems. Sarah considered the options. On Earth, we learned the hard way that technological progress without ethical consideration leads to disaster. Sometimes the most powerful solution isn't the right one. They chose a more balanced approach, and the chamber responded with approval. New pathways opened, revealing the true scope of the precursor's legacy. It's not just about space travel, Caloran breathed, studying the unveiled data. They developed technology that could heal planetary ecosystems, harness clean energy from quantum fluctuations, even restore damaged space-time. Technology the Council would never share, Sarah noted grimly. They'd rather keep species dependent on their limited resources. A sudden alert from their perimeter sensors interrupted their work. Something had entered the planet's atmosphere. Something large. Multiple ships, Mira reported, checking the readings. Council signatures. Sarah's mind raced. They must have detected the power surge from the activated chamber. How long? Hours at most. The team shared determined looks. They had come too far to let the Council bury this discovery again. The precursors left this knowledge for all species, Lick said, their voice firm. Not just the powerful ones. Sarah nodded. Then let's make sure everyone knows about it. Can we broadcast the data? Mira's fingers flew over the ancient controls, now responding to their touch. The chamber's quantum network is incredibly powerful. If we can tap into it, we could bypass the Council's communication controls completely, Caloran finished. Reach every species in the galaxy simultaneously. They worked frantically, racing against time. Sarah's diplomatic knowledge helped them craft a message that would resonate with different cultures. The Avalarians' technical expertise let them encode vast amounts of data into coherent transmissions. The chamber's energy built to a crescendo as they prepared the broadcast. Outside, the storm sensors began blaring warnings. The Council ships would arrive to find more than just a band of stranded survivors. Broadcasting now, Mira announced as the helix structure pulsed with blinding light. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings of all species watched in wonder as their communication systems displayed the same message. The precursor's legacy belongs to all. Let unity replace division. Let knowledge flow freely. The chamber shook as the first Council ships entered the atmosphere, but Sarah smiled, knowing they were too late. The truth was already spreading, impossible to contain. Whatever happens next, she told her Avalarian friends, we've changed everything. The ancient walls hummed with power as they prepared to face the Council's arrival. They had unlocked secrets beyond imagination, but their greatest discovery had been something simpler. The power of trust between different species, the strength found in embracing diversity rather than fearing it. As alarms blared and ships descended, Sarah and her team stood together in the glowing chamber, ready to defend not just ancient technology, but a new vision for the galaxy's future. Council's Gambit. The Council ships descended through the planet's atmosphere like predatory birds, their sleek hulls reflecting the alien sunlight. Inside the ancient chamber, Sarah and the Avalarian team worked swiftly to secure their position. The precursor's technology hummed around them, responding to their combined presence. 6 vessels, Mira reported, monitoring the sensors. including the High Chancellor's personal flagship. Sarah's lips curved in a grim smile. Vexthor himself. I'm touched. The broadcast is still propagating through the quantum network, Caloran announced. They can't stop it now. Every species in known space is receiving the precursor's data. The chamber's defensive systems activated automatically as the Council ships landed. Ancient shields shimmered into existence, creating an impenetrable barrier around the ruins. Through the crystalline walls, they could see Council forces deploying, led by armored peacekeepers. Commander Chen. Vexthor's voice boomed through their communications. You have accessed restricted technology and broadcast unauthorized data. Surrender immediately. Sarah activated the external speakers. Restricted by whom? Chancellor. The precursors left this knowledge for all species. The Council has no authority here. You may, fool, the Chancellor hissed. Do you understand what you've done? The galaxy operates on careful balance. Unrestricted access to advanced technology will lead to chaos, like the chaos of sabotaging research vessels. Dr. Lix interjected, of exiling diplomats to die. A pause. Then, your Avalarian team was declared lost in an unfortunate accident. As for Commander Chen, we have no record of any official exile order. Sarah laughed without humor. Always the politician, aren't you, Vexthor? But your lies won't work anymore. The truth is already spreading. Their sensors detected energy buildups as the Council ships powered their weapons, but something else was happening. In orbit above the planet, new ships were appearing, dozens, then hundreds of them. Multiple fleet signatures, Mira reported excitedly. Meridian, Arcturian, Zylaxian, ships from every major species in the galaxy. The Chamber's communications array crackled with incoming messages. Representatives from worlds across the galaxy demanded explanations from the Council. How long had they known about the Precursor's legacy? How many other discoveries had they suppressed? The Council chamber is in chaos. Caloran reported, monitoring galactic news feeds. Member species are calling for immediate reforms. The Meridian Alliance has already proposed a new coalition to oversee the fair distribution of precursor technology. Sarah watched through the chamber's viewing screens as Vexthor's forces stood down, overwhelmed by the arrival of ships from across the galaxy. The High Chancellor's carefully constructed power structure was crumbling in real time. Chancellor, she broadcast, her voice steady. You can still be part of this. The precursors didn't just leave us technology. They left us a blueprint for cooperation. Different species working together, sharing knowledge freely. That's the future they envisioned. Inside the chamber, the ancient machinery continued its work, revealing more of its secrets. The Avalarian scientists gasped as new data streams appeared, showing technologies beyond their wildest dreams. Look at this, Mira breathed, studying a particular sequence. The precursors developed ways to rehabilitate dying stars, to create sustainable ecosystems on barren worlds. Solutions to problems that have plagued our species for generations. A new voice joined the communications. Exile, Sarah's former Meridian ally on the Council. Commander Chen. Sarah, the Meridian Collective offers you sanctuary. You and your Avalarian colleagues have exposed truths that can no longer be ignored. More offers followed. Species after species extended invitations, eager to learn from those who had unlocked the Precursor's legacy. The Council's authority was dissolving, replaced by something new, something collaborative. Vexthor's final transmission was brief. You've destroyed generations of careful management, Commander. I hope you're prepared for the consequences. But as Sarah looked at her Avalarian friends, at the ancient chamber filled with knowledge waiting to be shared, she knew they were ready. The Council's fear of change, of losing control, had held the galaxy back for too long. Send notices to all arriving ships, she instructed. Everyone who wants to learn, to contribute, to work together. They're welcome here. This is no longer a place of secrets, it's a place of sharing. The chamber's lights pulsed in approval as ships began landing. Scientists, diplomats, and explorers from across the galaxy, drawn by the promise of unrestricted knowledge and cooperation. "The Council tried to bury us," Dr. Killeran observed, watching the gathering crowds through the chamber's windows. "They forgot we were seeds," Sarah finished, quoting an old Earth saying. As she watched representatives from 100 species approaching the ruins, she knew the real work was just beginning. But for the first time in galactic history, species would advance together, learning from each other, growing stronger through cooperation rather than competition. The Council's gambit to silence humanity had instead given birth to a new era, and in the ancient chamber, surrounded by the legacy of the precursors and the promise of the future, Sarah Chen smiled, ready to help guide the galaxy toward its next great adventure. New Horizons. 3 months after the fall of the Council's authority, the ancient ruins had transformed into a bustling center of interstellar cooperation. The Precursor Complex, now known as the Convergence, hosted scientists and scholars from hundreds of worlds. Sarah Chen, no longer an exiled diplomat, but the elected director of the new Galactic Exchange Program, stood in the central chamber watching species work together in ways the Council had always claimed were impossible. "Director Chen," Dr. Killeran approached, their silver skin rippling with urgency. "We've detected something concerning." Sarah followed the Avalarian scientist to the main observatory where a holographic display showed a massive stellar anomaly. A dying star in the Carina sector was collapsing faster than expected, threatening several populated worlds. The Council would have evacuated the wealthy worlds and left the others to their fate, Mira commented, working at a nearby console. "But we have another option now." Sarah studied the data streams. The precursor files mentioned stellar stabilization technology. "Have we decoded enough to implement it?" "Partially," Lix answered, joining them. "But it will require something unprecedented: simultaneous coordination between at least 5 different species' technologies." The challenge was immense. Each species had developed different approaches to space-time manipulation. Making them work together would be like conducting an orchestra where each section played in a different dimension. "Get me a quantum link to all affected worlds," Sarah ordered. Within minutes, representatives from dozens of species appeared in holographic form around the chamber. "We have a chance to save every world in the sector," she announced, "but only if we work together. Each of your species has part of the solution. Together, we can achieve what none of us could do alone." What followed was the largest cooperative scientific endeavor in galactic history. Meridian energy matrices combined with Zalaxian quantum fields. Arcturian gravity manipulators synchronized with human chaos theory calculations. Hadalarian dimensional anchors stabilized the entire framework. The Convergence became mission control for an operation involving over 1,000 ships from different species, each contributing unique technologies and perspectives. Sarah coordinated the effort, drawing on everything she'd learned about bridging cultural and technological gaps. Energy coherence at 87%. Mira reported as the combined fleet moved into position around the dying star. "We'll only get one chance at this." Sarah opened a channel to all ships. "Remember what the precursors taught us. Our strength lies not in our individual capabilities, but in how we enhance each other. Begin final approach." The operation was like an intricate dance. Ships from different worlds moved in perfect harmony, their diverse technologies weaving together into something entirely new. The dying star pulsed angrily, fighting against their efforts to stabilize it. "Containment field failing in Sector 7. Someone shouted. Without hesitation, ships from former enemy species moved to support each other, compensating for weaknesses, amplifying strengths. Sarah watched with pride as centuries of distrust dissolved in the face of a common purpose. Then, like a symphony reaching its crescendo, everything aligned. The star's collapse slowed, stopped, and began to reverse. Cheers erupted across every communication channel as the combined fleet achieved what the Council had always deemed impossible. "Energy readings stabilizing," Killeran announced. "The star's core is rebalancing. All populated worlds in the sector are safe." In the aftermath of the crisis, as representatives from grateful worlds crowded the convergence to offer thanks, Sarah found a quiet moment with her original team. "You know," she said, looking out at the 3 moons rising over the horizon, "when the Council exiled me here, they thought they were protecting their power. Instead, they showed us all a better way forward. The precursors would be proud," Lix added. "Their legacy wasn't just about technology. It was about proving that different species could become something greater together than they ever could alone." News of the successful stellar stabilization spread rapidly across the galaxy. More worlds pledged their support to the exchange program. Even some former Council worlds, seeing the benefits of open cooperation, began sending representatives to the convergence. 1 year to the day after Sarah's exile, she stood before a gathered assembly of species in the ancient chamber. The room hummed with the energy of diverse technologies working in harmony, just as the precursors had envisioned. "We face many challenges ahead," she addressed the crowd. "But we face them together, not as rivals or subjects, but as equals. Every species brings unique gifts to our collective future. That diversity isn't a weakness to be controlled, but a strength to be celebrated." As if in response, the chamber's lights pulsed with renewed energy. Deep in the quantum networks, more precursor data was unlocking, responding to the unprecedented cooperation between species. The galaxy's future was no longer about competition and control, but about what different species could achieve together. Sarah looked at her friends, human, Avalarian, and now so many others, and knew that the Council's greatest fear had become reality. But instead of the chaos they had predicted, this new era of cooperation was bringing stability and advancement beyond anything they had imagined. The stars beckoned, no longer divided by artificial boundaries and restrictions, and in the convergence, amid the ruins of an ancient civilization that had dreamed of unity, a new chapter in galactic history was just beginning.